4 p.m. I remind everyone that our meeting is being recorded, and I welcome you all to the Wednesday, May 11th, 2022 General Meeting for Community Board 2 Brooklyn. Good evening. I am Lenny Singletary. I serve as Chair, Community Board 2, and I am supported by Leonard Jordan, who serves as our first Vice Chair, Barbara Zyler-Granger, who serves as our second Vice Chair, Jessica Thurston, who serves as our Secretary, and Taya Muller, who is now representing what we like to call the district office, which generally should be multiple people, but right now it's Taya. So that is the makeup of Community Board 2. And as those of you who are guests or maybe here for the first time, you'll see the rest of my colleagues as they take action through the rest of tonight's agenda. At this time, I'll move on to agenda item number 1, which is that concludes agenda item number 1, which is the welcome and review and the meeting protocols. 2, are there any edits or modifications to tonight's agenda? Hearing none, we'll adopt the agenda as is and proceed. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes of April 2022? Are there any edits or corrections? Seeing none, all in favor, please indicate by raising your hand or saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Please follow the same protocol. And for those of you who are using the digital raise your hand, once you've done, take your hand down so we don't make a mistake on your position. So, and are there any abstentions? Please follow the same protocol. Thank you. The minutes pass. Should you subsequently look at the minutes and see that there are things that need to be updated, I would advise you to please send them into the board office. At this
There was
point,
one abstention, John Doe.
okay. At this point, we're moving forward to item number 4, open session for public comment. So this is the section where, based on what we have on the agenda tonight, if there's something that is not listed and someone from the community wants to bring an item to our attention, this is where you would do so. This is for the public, and this is not open session. This is strictly to bring attention to an agenda item that we should consider if it's not on the agenda tonight. So in that vein, is there anyone who has any items that fall under item number 4? Well, is your hand listed for a reason?
Yeah, so we have some updates on the our cultural center at 227 Abolitionist Place. I don't know if this would be a time to do that, or
That would be open session.
okay. All right.
Anybody has any items? I see a hand raised from Mitchell.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. So last time I brought up the issue of helicopter noise in Brooklyn, specifically low-flying helicopters along Claremont and Vanderbilt Avenue. Last year I made numerous noise complaints.
Mitchell?
And yes.
I'm sorry. I need you to hold that for open session.
Okay. So the other thing I wanted to say was there was a meeting. I attended the meeting last week, and they kept saying, one of the gentlemen kept saying that they're not going to be taking a vote because there wasn't a quorum. A lot of our block members who were interested in voicing their disapproval of the Masonic Temple getting their liquor license were on the call. They left the call because on numerous occasions it was stated that there was not going to be a vote. And then later we found out that there was a vote. So, we were a little taken aback by that, myself included. So we wanted to raise that issue as soon as possible.
Great, thank you for that. So with that, I advise you to stay tuned, don't hang up.
Well, I mean, personally, like I said, personally, I teach a class from 7 to 9, so I can only physically stay on the line till 7 p.m. So other members of the community are here. Last time I chatted my disapproval to everybody. I don't know if it was read or not, You know, and you know, we're putting a letter. I wrote a letter to the liquor, you know, state liquor authority, SLA. So, you know.
So Mitchell, thank you for that. I appreciate that information. That's helpful. Hopefully we can get to this before you have to depart. But if there are other members from the community who have the same interests as Mitchell, I encourage everyone to please stay on the line and have us stay on so you can take part, or actually listen to that part of the discussion. So thank you. Are there any other members of the community, non-community board 2 members who have an item they want to bring up to be considered for the agenda? All right, great, thank you. With that, we'll proceed with the next set of items. So item number 5, committees for action. We're going to start first with the Health, Environment, and Social Service Committee, and the chairperson for that committee is Mr. Brandon Smith.
Good evening, everybody. As a precursor to my report tonight, I have to note that at last week's meeting, we didn't achieve quorum until about an hour into the meeting. And as a result of that, we had an applicant appear and depart, as well as a number of community members, without taking a vote. So on tonight's agenda, we have an item that has not been approved, but not because we haven't had a vote, but not because of any action on the part of the committee, but because we didn't have quorum at the time that it was present. I would just ask as a point of order, Mr. Singletary, do you want me to take that item first and separately, or do you want me to handle it all as a group with the rest of my items, which were all voted on and approved?
So the item that wasn't actioned upon because of lack of quorum, is there a deadline that requires us that it be immediately addressed?
I'm not aware of any, and I would ask Ms. Muller if she is aware of that.
Well, I'm not muted. Hello. That applicant has agreed to reappear in June, and that was very, very recently updated, Mr. Smith.
Okay.
So therefore, there's no need for you to address that tonight because it's going to go back to committee, and
Correct.
you can proceed with your agenda.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thanks. That helps.
Thank you.
I will go through this then in the order that everything was presented. Aside from the one that will be put over to next month, we heard from a total of 6 liquor license applicants at the last meeting. And with the exception of one where there was definitely some community concern and a no vote on the part of one member of the committee, the other items were unanimously approved. So starting with the first item, this item is 168 Front /85J, Lifetime Fitness. This is, as you might expect, a fitness studio where the applicant operates 150 clubs in the United States, 8 of which are in New York. There's a coffee bar and cafe in the club that will be open to the public, and alcohol is an amenity, but not the main purpose. Much of the discussion related to an outdoor space at the club that acts as a courtyard, and when it was closed. And it was my understanding that prior to the meeting, the applicant had agreed with community members that the outdoor area would close at 8 p.m. Monday through Friday and 9 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. We spoke about security, and they're going to have some private events, but there were no community members who came to the meeting who expressed any opposition to this application. And after discussing these points, we approved it. And by the way, indoor hours are midnight, 7 days a week for this. We approved it by a margin of 6-0-0. The next application is called 245 DeKalb Avenue. This application is for a location on DeKalb between Claremont and Vanderbilt. The location is going to be a full-service American fare restaurant, open 10 a.m. to midnight daily. There's going to be some outdoor seating against the building, 2 tables on either side of the doorway. They had spoken to some nearby residents, but we were lucky to actually have the upstairs resident at our meeting. And while she indicated that she had not been spoken to, she indicated she did not have a concern with the establishment. After hearing that, the committee voted to approve this application 6-0-0. Those were liquor license applicants. The next 3 are beer and wine. The first one of those is Joe and Sal's. That's located at 353 Myrtle Avenue. This is a pizza place. It is open and operating since January of 2020, background music only. There's a backyard with 6 tables, 12 seats. There were 107 signatures of support for this item. 10 p.m. closed Sunday to Thursday, 11 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. No community concerns expressed. It was voted to approve this 6-0-0. The next application is called Prima Brooklyn. It's located at 147 Green. That's between Washington and Waverly. This applicant previously was called Primrose Cafe. It's in a very residential area, and there is a backyard. There were 68 signatures of support, and there was an upstairs resident who spoke at the meeting and was generally favorable towards the applicant, but did ask whether they would consider an earlier closing time. And in fact, the applicant was very willing to consider an earlier closing time for the backyard. They would do 9 p.m. on Sunday to Thursday and 10 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. Indoors, the service would be until 11 p.m. on Monday through Thursday, midnight on Friday and Saturday, 11 p.m. on Sunday. After this discussion and on condition that they adjust the closing time, the application was approved 6-0-0. The next item is called Ding Soup Dumpling, located at 162 Montague. It is a noodle spot. There is no outdoor seating. 11 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. daily, 115 signatures of support. Montague Street Bid supports them. The committee had a very brief discussion and approved this application 6-0-0. That brings us to the liquor license application for Brooklyn Masonic Temple, located at 317 Claremont on the corner of Lafayette Avenue. This was the item where there was some community concern expressed, and we actually heard from a number of community members who expressed that concern. First, with respect to the applicant, the location itself has been used previously as a venue for concerts and special events. The neighborhood is such where it's residential, I would say, and on the other side of directly across the street, you've got a 2-lane street of Claremont Avenue. You've got a row of brownstones, and immediately to the right of the applicant there of the location, there's a parking lot with brownstones on the other side of that parking lot. And then on the Lafayette side, there's a playground across the street from the building. But this is a very big building, and it appears, at least from the discussion with the residents, that there's been some issues of people under different management getting disorderly and engaging in various forms of drunken behavior in and around the location in the past. The applicant is planning to offer live acoustic music, live amplified music, and live DJs at this venue, where it will also be a theater. So it's not just going to be music, it's also going to be comedy and other kinds of special events. There are no residents who are living within the building above the location or within the confines of the premises. And we had a rather extensive conversation about how things would be managed at the location. Specifically, we spoke about the applicant's experience, where he discussed managing other similar establishments in Manhattan. And we spoke about security, where the applicant stated that he would have a ratio of 1 security guard for every 75 attendees, and would seek additional security as needed. We spoke about how the applicant would deal with community concerns that might arise from having this venue in this place. And the applicant shared his phone number and email address with everyone on the call. We spoke about how he would handle drunken patrons or people who would be disorderly. And he spoke that he had experience managing situations like that in the past, and would take steps to ensure that the neighborhood wouldn't be disrupted. When we spoke about sound, he was adamant that he would ensure that the sound was below the decibel level that he is required to comply with by law. And on the application, he's checked off that he will provide soundproofing for his establishment. Upon discussing this further, we also talked about the hours. While there will be no outdoor hours, the proposed hours were a 1 a.m. close 7 days a week for this location. And through some discussion, we negotiated that down to 12 midnight close for this location. Community members expressed concerns about the potential for noise, the potential for drunken persons to be lingering around the neighborhood, and expressed concerns about how the venue had been managed in the past with very disruptive events, apparently. And the committee tried to discuss this with the applicant, and the applicant was very adamant that he would take the steps to try to be a good neighbor to other people in the community and mitigate sound as it came out. So with those facts understood, the motion was put on the table and passed to approve this application by a margin of 5-1-0. The one person who voted against it identified the concern for noise as being the reason for voting against it. And as a condition of the motion, it's expected that the applicant will put in place appropriate soundproofing. So I would suggest perhaps we consider that applicant separately from the other applications. But that concludes my report, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the committee's recommendation, including pulling out 317 Claremont for a separate vote. Ms. Fibush, second, Ms. Gringer. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, great. So hearing none, we'll move forward. So I entertain a motion to accept a discussion. I'm sorry, I entertain a motion to accept the committee's recommendation for 317 Claremont.
Well, before we do that, shouldn't we vote on
we
the
have to
first
vote.
motion?
We have to vote.
What did I just vote on?
No.
Oh, I'm
No.
sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Brain freeze. All in favor,
Yeah, thank you.
either indicate by raising your hand or saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Please follow the same protocol.
In front of my hand.
Any abstentions? Please follow the same protocol.
Peterson.
Thank you, Denise. Any other abstentions? Jessica, we have that?
Yep, we're all good.
All right, great. So the motion carries for everything that was not objected to from the committee. Now, I'll entertain a motion to accept the committee's recommendation for 317 Claremont.
So moved.
Mr. Jordan, second, Ms. Thurston. Is there any discussion on the motion? Mr. Jordan?
Yeah, so I guess it's a question to Mr. Smith in the office. Have we received any noise complaints from that building? And I don't know if you had mentioned that before, maybe, pardon me if I didn't hear it. Or did the office receive any noise complaints from that venue?
As for the office, I'm not sure whether the office did. I will say that some of the, I think I mentioned some of the community members read off several Yelp complaints that folks had made about the location in the past, but that's the extent that I'm aware that there were numerous complaints in the past. Does the board office have any different information than me?
Oh, I can confirm we had 29 petition signatures of support, 4 emails of support, 3 emails of opposition, and no noise complaints registered in the last 2 years.
Thank you.
Ms. Thurston?
Thank you, Mr. Singletary. Because I know this one might sound contentious, I just wanted to offer my take as secretary of that committee. And of course, remind folks work happens in the committee. I don't suggest that we reopen this debate, but I also want to say that, to reiterate Brandon's point, that we heard from a lot of community members. It's certainly unfortunate some couldn't stay on. That's the nature of these meetings, of course, but we were able to hear from a ton of folks. And I'd like to reiterate that the concerns that were raised, some are certainly incredibly valid and understandable. Like, is there going to be excess noise or drunk people on the street from this, which we felt was addressed quite sufficiently by the applicant. But also the concerns raised were reflective of previous behavior that was, we can only take him at his word, but this applicant was not involved in the previous space. So the Yelp reviews Brandon mentioned that were read to us, and concerns about 4 a.m. spilling out into the street. It's not relevant because it's not the same applicant. It's a totally different ownership structure. And I'm extremely supportive of this application because I think this is they're very willing to engage with the community that came through. We again have to take them at their word, as we do with all other applications, but also we're here to lift up and support small business owners in our district. And I think it's important that we continue to do so as a board. So thank you. I just wanted to add that context.
Mr. Dew?
Yes, thank you. Yes, Singletary. Mr. Smith, you indicated that the applicant said that there would be secure for 75 patrons. Is that standard? And how does he or she know whether they're going to be 75 or more patrons on a given night? Did you hear me?
I got you a little garbled during the part where you were talking about the patrons and the numbers. I think you said maybe something about the applicant said 75 to 100 patrons. Was that, maybe if you could just rephrase that part, that would be helpful. Sorry.
You said that the applicant would have a security officer for every 75.
Yes.
And what is the capacity of the place, and how would one know whether you're going to have 75 patrons or less or more?
Well, the applicant indicated that his events were ticketed, so he would know how many tickets were sold for a given event. As for the capacity, I don't recall it off the top. Oh, here we go. The fire occupancy capacity is 1,005 according to the application.
Wow. Okay.
Ms. Zala-Gringer?
Yeah, I think earlier in the meeting, we told people they would have an opportunity to talk about this. And I would assume they would need that opportunity before we vote on it.
No, I didn't say that. I said they have the opportunity to hear the discussion. That's what I said.
Oh, sorry for that.
So
Okay.
do you have a question?
No.
Ms. Peterson?
Okay, good evening again. I just want to make a comment. One, I'm familiar with Masonic Temple, and some of the things that have been said are probably, correct in the way of the spillover of those people who may attend various social events at that location. But and it could, potentially be a little noisy. I live a little further up Lafayette, closer to St. James, but I often, drive up and down Lafayette Avenue, so I'll see some of the activity that goes on, or that have gone on some time ago. Haven't seen quite much other than there's also a polling site that goes on there. But the comment about drunken persons, in Park Slope, you have bars, drunken people come from out of there. When I'm at the 78th Police Precinct Council meeting, I hear about they leave the restaurants and they do all these various things on people's property. That happens there. So I just don't want people to think that it's, it's not okay for any of that to happen, but certainly we know that this is what happens on a Friday night or a Thursday night or a Wednesday night, that people go and engage in having some social activity and they're drinking, and it spills over onto the street. So if that's a major concern, then it's a concern everywhere. And so I even places that the board has sought to support, those people who frequent those places throughout community board 2, it's the same behavior, it's the same activity as it would be on Lafayette Avenue. So I don't know how you can separate the two in way of supporting it one way or the other. Thank you.
Ms. Thompson, Manning?
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment that the Masonic Temple has been having, has had affairs. I don't know about recently. They've had weddings, they've had dances, they've had parties. And as Ms. Peterson said, whenever you have a group of people, something like that does happen. And I'm just wondering, is it the neighborhood? Is it the people in the neighborhood? What are they afraid of? There's other places where we have events where people drink, they have parties, and everybody says it's okay. So what's the difference between that and the Masonic Temple? It's a standalone place. You have to give people an opportunity to see. Now, if it doesn't work out, there are other things that can be done, I guess, not from us, but from a legal standpoint or something like that. My comment is, I listened to what was said, but I'm not so sure that this is going to be a deterrent to the neighborhood. We don't really know. And the Yelp reviews, how old are they? Was it last year, 2 years ago, 4 years ago? So I just wanted to just make a comment. Thank you.
Mr. Flanoy?
Thank you, Chair Secretary. I understand the concern of the community in regards to previous complaints that were registered with previous promoters that were there, and I totally understand. I understand their concern and their fears. However, this is a new applicant. This applicant has already conceded as far as reducing the time, as far as how long this can be open. He's mentioned also that he would have security there, and he has also given out his telephone number to the individuals that were there in the event, I believe, if they need to call him about noise complaints or other issues, to have access to him. So based on the fact that he looks like this individual is open to both complying and also working with the community, and the fact that this is a new applicant and this is a new situation, we should give him the benefit of the doubt and approve the application.
Any other comment from Community Board 2 members? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of the committee's recommendation, please indicate aye or raise your hand. Those opposed, please indicate aye or raise your hand.
I don't think I see any opposed. Did I miss anyone?
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure. Let me do this again. Anybody opposed, please indicate by saying aye or raise your hand. Community Board 2 members. Anyone, any abstentions? Please follow the same protocol. Yeah, Jessica, I don't see any abstentions or any opposition.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Before we jump into the next item, which is land use, as you all know, we always appreciate when our elected officials are able to show in person, and we also appreciate their representatives. But you also know that we run a conflict with another community board. So at this time, I'd like to transition from the agenda just a moment and set aside a moment for our council member who's part of the Community Board 2 District, Lincoln Restler, to have the floor to make some comments so that he too can then join another community board meeting. Councilmember Restler.
Chair Singletary, it is always a pleasure to be with you. And as I was just saying at the beginning of the meeting, back home at CB2. So thank you so much for the opportunity to just briefly say hello. Just wanted to update folks on a few key things in Community Board 2 and District 33 that we've been working on. And thank you for all your hard work as a board. Did want to maybe start with the fact that I know we're getting to the point in the year where there's new appointments coming. We were fortunate to engage with the chair to seek some input on some of the gaps that were skills gaps that we're trying to identify on the board. And I'm hopeful that new people that we've identified are going to really be helpful and add a great deal of value to what's already a great community board. So we're looking forward to formalizing those appointments with the borough president in the very imminent future and our good old friend Carol Ann. So just a few key updates. Yesterday, we released our climate action plan for District 33. It's the first kind of plan of its kind that is a district focused plan around climate justice. And it has 5 key pillars: reducing emissions from our buildings, our transportation, our waste, expanding green spaces and green infrastructure, and expanding and addressing resiliency along our waterfront as we're a waterfront district. It includes 40 odd initiatives, concrete things that we're trying to do in District 33 and many in District 30 in CB2. I really encourage everyone to take a look at the plan if they have a chance. Would love to get more volunteer engagement and work on things together to really make it a reality and make it happen. And Arvind, as always, my extraordinary staff member, is 3 steps ahead in the chat. I wanted to highlight just one bill that we introduced last week that I think might be of interest. It's focused on evidentiary misconduct. This is a bill that, I think we're all aware that the District Attorney's Office has lists of police officers that they're not comfortable putting on the stand because of lack of reliability in their testimony. We put forward a bill that would essentially facilitate a process to make allegations or to issue complaints to the Department of Investigation and the NYP Inspector General. If you believe there's an instance of evidentiary misconduct by a police officer, DOI will investigate, and then as appropriate, share that information, refer that information to the DA's office for further investigation and prosecution. We thought there was a hole in our criminal justice system of accountability here that I'm hopeful this bill can help address. Wanted to mention we've got lots of great open streets around CB2 that I'm really excited about. In particular, excited about the one on Montague Street that's starting next weekend. We're doing a big ribbon cutting for one of the new bakeries on Montague Street. We've got 4 or 5 new businesses, including the soup dumplings that I think you guys are supporting a liquor license, or maybe voting on a liquor license on today. But L'Appartement 4F, or however you say it in French, we're doing a big ribbon cutting for the new bakery there on Saturday. Really encourage everyone to come out and join the party. We are working actively on a couple of the new shelters that are opening, and certainly in close partnership with CB2. The latest we've gotten from the Department of Homeless Services is that One Hoyt is on pace for a June opening. We've got a list of members for Community Advisory Board, and DHS is committed for that CAB to be in place prior to the shelter opening. And similarly, we're in touch with CB2 about the planned shelter at 316 Atlantic, and we'll be working together. Our office is going to be actively involved in making sure we have a robust community forum where we have an opportunity for neighbors to ask questions and get them answered by DHS, and appreciate CB2 for their partnership. I think there is some exciting news coming to the Transportation Committee of Community Board 2 next week around Skirmerhorn Street. I'm not going to get ahead of DOT, but I'm very much looking forward to their presentation to all of you, and I hope that you're as receptive to it as I am. And then I just lastly wanted to mention, a gentleman called out helicopter noise. We are working on the most aggressive legislation we possibly can around helicopters. I'm hopeful that we'll get it introduced in the next month or so. But this legislation would essentially eliminate non-essential helicopter travel, tourism flights, the Blade, fancy people that are going to JFK or the Hamptons on their helicopters that have just been a terrible nuisance and extraordinarily loud and disruptive for many residents of Community Board 2. So we're pushing hard to get that legislation introduced, and we're going to do everything we can to get it passed. But as ever,
Fantastic, thank you.
We're a phone call away at 410 Atlantic. Come by and say hello. If there's anything we can ever do to be of assistance to the members of Community Board 2 and to the community as a whole, we're here to help. And I just want to thank Arvin for everything he does in solving problems around our district every day, but never hesitate to reach out to me or him. We really appreciate the partnership with CB2 and look forward to helping in whatever ways we can. And thank you, Lenny, for the chance to just say hello briefly.
No problem. Thank you for participating and to be in person. As is our custom, now that we have the council member for the 33rd present, I'll ask if any board members, the first 3 board members, have any questions for the council member before we move on in the agenda.
John
Mr.
Dew
Dew?
has a
Mr. Dew?
Yes. You, Councilmember Restler. A couple, I always have a list of items, but I'm going to limit it tonight. First of all, you mentioned open streets. Some of the open streets in Community District 2 did not come before the Community Board. There are issues. I understand DOT has agreed that all future open streets will come before the Community Board. However, those open streets that did not come before the Community Board also have to come before the Community Board because there are issues in the community that have not been addressed. That's just one item. Second item is one that we've been dealing with, which is the homeless population and the affordable housing. The two are actually tied very closely together, but they're never really connected. So I would like to continue discussion on affordable housing as the long-term solution to our current homeless problem. And the last item I'm going to bring up is the Gowanus Canal. Community Board 2 voted against the proposal to redevelop the Gowanus Canal for a whole host of reasons. But one of them is that the developers were going to be given some responsibility for cleanup of the canal. That canal has already resulted in problems. I'm just putting it out there. It's going to be an ongoing problem because it is considered by many the dirtiest canal in the United States. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dew. Just very briefly in response on those 3 items. Firstly, I do support DOT bringing open streets proposals to the Community Board. I think that's a reasonable thing. And it's a good, CB2 is a great venue for feedback and discussion. And making plans and proposals better good community feedback and input. Secondly, I could not agree with you more. The solution to housing is homelessness. The street homelessness conditions in downtown Brooklyn in particular have been, I think, getting worse. We're working on a new approach to try and address those conditions that I hope that we'll be able to announce over the next few weeks or a month. That I'm confident is going to make a positive difference. I was remiss to say that I got to go on Monday to the ribbon cutting for 50 Nevins, which was a real joy. ICL, the Institute for Community Living, an organization that I think we all know well, opened their first project at 50 Nevins 35 years ago. And they've gone on and expanded to be a critical citywide provider in addressing homelessness issues and a large supportive housing provider. They just completed a top to bottom renovation and expansion of 50 Nevins that now will transformed an old SRO building into 129 units of permanently affordable housing, including 78 supportive housing units that are for formerly homeless individuals. I believe 20 of them are in fact for formerly homeless veterans. So we are thrilled about that new development. And I couldn't be prouder that the largest new supportive housing development to open in New York City in decades is in CB2 in District 33 at 90 Sand Street. And we're working to set up a community advisory board there to help make sure that it's a smooth opening. Breaking Ground has gotten all of our recommendations for CAB members, including of course CB2, and we're really excited to see that building open up in the weeks ahead. So I'm with you. The solution is housing, and we've got to prioritize it at every turn. A deeply affordable and supportive housing that can actually solve our homelessness crisis.
Daughtry?
Thank you, Mr. Singletary. And nice to see you, Lincoln. I will just be brief. I don't want to, Mr. Dew always is on point in terms of homelessness and housing. I did want to change the subject just briefly and ask if you, and I see Mr. Herbert is here from the mayor's office, have started to look at, we talked about helicopter noise, but honestly, these four-wheelers and motor dirt bikes on the streets in Brooklyn is not only annoying and noisy, but they're dangerous. And I know that one of the promises the mayor made when he was campaigning was that he was going to address those. And I'm wondering if has there been any progress towards sort of putting the kibosh on those?
Well, I really appreciate the question, Daughtry, as always, and thank you for the great work you do every day in addressing homelessness across New York City. So there are a couple key updates there that I wanted to share. The most exciting piece is a pilot that the Department of Environmental Protection is doing right now that I'm expecting results on in the next, I think, 6 or so weeks, where they are combining automating noise violations from cars and other vehicles with cameras to issue tickets. So we have not yet seen the findings. DEP has kind of whispered in my ear that they're excited about what they're seeing so far, but we don't yet have kind of formal outcomes from this pilot. But if it's as promising as people are kind of hoping, I think it's something that we'll look to expand rapidly citywide, kind of building on the best of the ShotSpotter technology, but using it to address a really critical quality of life issue. Secondly, I was really proud to co-sponsor a bill last week that would double the fines for noise violations from vehicles. And that's we're going to push to get that through the council as quickly as we possibly can. And thirdly, I've been in touch with counterparts in Albany to figure out how we can do more around placing stricter regulations on auto shops that are giving out mufflers that allow for this extreme noise. And so that's not something that appears to be directly within local municipal control, but it is something that with help from Albany, we could pursue together that I think could make a real difference and start getting at undermining the ability for these shops to be licensed if they're continuing to give out mufflers that are allowing for extreme noise. So we're taking a multi-pronged approach to this. It's an issue that My partner likes to make fun of me because it gets me so worked up. But I think I'm not the only one. It's totally unacceptable. And it's a safety issue. It's a quality of life issue. It affects people's sleep. It's just all of the above. We got to get it under control. And I don't think this is just a CB2 issue. It's very much a citywide issue that's gotten much worse during the pandemic, and we got to get it under control. So thank you for raising it.
Lincoln, as always, thank you for joining tonight. We appreciate you responding to the questions and look forward to continue to work with you and your representatives in your office.
You are the absolute best, Mr. Singletary. I'll try to be less long-winded in the future. I'm sorry for taking up so much time.
No, that's all right.
Appreciate the chance to say hello.
No need to apologize.
Cool. Have a great night, everyone.
You too. Next up, we have our council member for the representing the 35th Councilmanic District. We have Crystal Hudson, who's with us this evening. Councilmember Hudson.
Thank you so much, and good evening, everyone. Good to see all of you. Just wanted to share a few updates. We're in the midst of budget negotiations with the mayor. So the city council has already submitted our response to the mayor's budget. And now we're doing budget hearings, which started last Friday. So each committee is hosting a budget hearing along with the finance committee. I'm chair of the aging committee, and our budget hearing, executive budget hearing, is tomorrow. You can always find the links on the council website. So I invite anybody who might be interested to join that one tomorrow, and also just check out the calendar. I can drop the link in a moment to the city council calendar for the hearings. But it's great to see, the questions that are asked around our budget and what the administration is putting forward or proposing. Want to mention, if it wasn't mentioned already, the rally on Saturday, the Bands Off Our Body rally. We were obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, I will speak for myself. I was, shocked at the leaked draft opinion. And we organized very quickly a rally last week at Foley Square. Reproductive justice organizations, including Planned Parenthood, are organizing the one again for this Saturday. It's going to start at Cadman Plaza, so in the neighborhood. It'll be at 12 o'clock, and then we're going to walk over the bridge and then end at Foley Square. It's going to be really interactive, lots of organizations sharing information for folks about what to do, in the coming months, and music and food and all that good stuff. And also just, being in community with one another, but also, activating all of us to fight hard against what we know is going to come. So that's on Saturday, 12 to 5, starting at Cadman Plaza. My office will be hosting a housing clinic on May 25th at 6 p.m. So look out there. I'll also drop the registration for the housing clinic in the chat, as well as our registration for our next edition of Coffee with Crystal, which will be at the Penny House Cafe on Washington Avenue in Prospect Heights. So just outside of CB2, but these Coffee with Crystal sessions are open to everybody. We've had some folks from CB2 attend in the past. It's a great opportunity for us to just connect, for you to connect with neighbors, for us to talk about some of the issues that are most important to you and that are pertinent. So hopefully you'll be able to join us then. And then lastly, I just wanted to add, I don't know if folks have been, or actually I have two things. One is Jeremy on my team, Jeremy Lockett, should have already reached out. I believe he's reached out about our Community Safety Council, which I mentioned the last time I was on CB2. We'll be convening, right. So we'll be convening a group of stakeholders to connect just around combating the gun violence that's been in the community. And having, open dialogue, and it'll be very productive and solutions oriented group that we gather together. And then lastly, we will be starting the process for a community engagement process for a rezoning on Atlantic Avenue. The CB2 side already has, zoning in place. but we want to make sure we're still including CB2 because it's going to include a transformation, hopefully, of Atlantic Avenue in terms of street design, street safety, pedestrian safety, things like that. So look out for that as well. We'll be reaching out to make sure we've got some representation from Community Board 2. And so, Mr. Singletary, we will be in touch. But thanks for the opportunity to share some information from our office.
Thank you, as always, Councilmember Hudson. Anybody has any 3 questions we want to ask the council member while she's here? And before I call on John Dew, is there anybody else outside of John Dew who has a question? John, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Council.
How are you?
John, if you
Good.
can
I
hear
have a
me.
meeting.
Yeah, you're breaking up.
John, if you can hear me, you're breaking up a little bit. We can't hear you.
Am I still breaking up?
Now you're better.
Do
Okay.
you hear me now? Do you
Yep.
hear me now? Do you hear me now? Okay. Council member, we have a meeting scheduled on the 26th. I believe I contacted your office with we should discuss, but I also wanted to mention to you Willoughby Avenue is really problematic in your district because it is closed 24/7. That's unprecedented. Moved a quarter mile from the street grid in downtown Brooklyn with no community input whatsoever. That I don't understand how an agency can allow something like that to happen and present it to a community overnight. So I'm just giving you a preamble as to what we're going to discuss on the 26th, because this is unprecedented. The other item is there is a movement to discourage the usage of cars. And I think we all agree from a perspective of the environment, it's the thing to do. But there is no corresponding improvement in public transportation that would encourage people to be able to discontinue using their motor vehicles. So I would like to talk about that and see what ideas we can put out there to improve public transportation also. I'll leave it at that for now, Mr. Singletary, Chair Singletary.
Thank you, John.
Thank you so much. Yeah, those are all really good points. Regarding the Willoughby Avenue open street, so DOT conducted a survey. We made sure that they came out in person because we didn't want them to limit themselves to just collecting input digitally or online. And so we wanted to make sure that as many voices, as possible would be heard. So they're in the process now of reviewing the responses from that survey, and our office has been in close communication with DOT to make sure that every perspective and every voice has been heard, and has all the opinions of everybody in the neighborhood have been taken into account. I think that was a big thing at the start of the open streets during the pandemic. It feels like there wasn't much input that was collected, or at least not thoroughly. And so our office has worked really hard to make sure that all perspectives have been taken into account. And so, now we'll start the process of having conversations about, potential changes to the open street, if any. The second thing was, cars. I'm personally, I'm not, I don't subscribe to the war on cars. I recognize the need for folks to have cars. It's also like, if you want to have a car, you should be able to have a car, but also at the same time, we need to make sure our streets are safe, and we need to make sure we're creating streets that are centering the needs of, pedestrians and people in wheelchairs and walking with strollers and walking with walkers and canes and people who might be blind and things like that. And so, this is a both and situation. I think not an either or. We can have both safe streets and people can have cars. But I think right now I would say, perhaps culturally, we're at this sort of precipice where there's, a movement to remove all cars from every street in New York City. I just don't think that's a reality. And so, that's perhaps a more existential conversation or, debate to have at a later date. But I hear you, and I always say my job as a council member is to listen to all, all perspectives, take in all opinions, and make sure that, we find some sort of middle ground. You can't please all the people all the time. And I'm very much aware of that, but I think we have to do as much as we can to keep our streets as safe as possible. And also to respect the needs and the wants of our neighbors and of all of our neighbors. So thanks for bringing that up. And I do look forward to our conversation.
Denise Peterson.
Sorry. Councilmember Hudson, how are you this evening? Thank you for joining us. And thank you for the great work that you are seeking to do for the community. I just wanted to say that I totally agree with the idea that there has to be a middle ground. It has to be, because otherwise it's just chaos and the community doesn't exist as a community. And so I think that's very key, very important. And it does appear as though, people want to put cars out of and off of the streets of New York City, just based on some of the decisions that have been made, and people have been left out of the conversation, or some people maybe didn't come to the table to sort of submit their opinions. One of the things I do want to bring up is, with that said, there seems to be no consequence of sorts for reckless behavior of any individual, whether they're in the car, whether they're on the bike, whether on the moped, motorcycle, whatever it is that they're on. There doesn't seem to be any consequence for them. It doesn't seem to be a consequence for an individual who is riding a bike or a type of vehicle that when the bus is turning, making an appropriate turn, that they choose to take the risk of coming on the right of that bus, on the right of that car. And while they may be looked after, but they still taking this sort of daredevil risk. And I think that too has to be part of the conversation about, well, what happens with that individual, with those individuals? It's almost like everything outside of cars can be on the street and do whatever it is they want to do. They don't get a ticket. They come through the light. They don't let the seniors cross on J Street. Nobody pays attention or, comes forth with any plan about what you do with those individuals, because they need to be, they need to know that there is a consequence for that kind of behavior. I'm always yelling on J Street, watch out, miss, watch out, mister, because they just come, they don't stop at the lights. They're supposed to do this, they don't do it, and nobody seems to be addressing it. And I think for their safety, for the people crossing safety, for the people in the street driving safety, that it needs to be something that they need to be made aware of, and or to receive a consequence based on their reckless and non-caring ways, except for them trying to get from point A to point B. That's all I want to say. Thank you much for that great Mother's Day event. That was a wonderful afternoon for the seniors and the mothers, and so we appreciate it. I appreciate it. Not that I'm a senior, I'm just saying I enjoyed it.
Nobody was counting you in that bunch, don't worry.
Right. It's true.
So Councilmember Hudson, I generally try to limit this to 3 questions. Oh,
yes.
So actually, thank you to those who put their question in the chat. So now the third and final question will go to Carolyn Hubbard Cumming and Worry.
Good evening, council member. Thank you for being with us again. I thank you for also not being part of the war on cars. I think that's unreasonable in a city like ours. I also wanted to bring up the open streets. I was a little concerned about the way the survey was conducted, or written, I should say, because the questions didn't allow for those who were opposed to the way the process was done and the 24 hours and all to make comments. And That's why I think you won't get the kind of result you expected. I also wanted to bring up the closed open streets, so-called, that are next to Fort Greene Park, both South Portland Avenue and Willoughby Avenue. I don't understand the logic of closing the streets next to the park, since all people have to do is walk across the street to the park. It doesn't make sense. Why do that to the rest of us who need to use the streets? So those are my comments, and I wish that would be addressed. And certainly I want to see any open streets come before the community board so that it can be discussed. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll address your comments and Ms. Peterson's very, very briefly, Mr. Singletary, because I know you have to move on with the agenda. Just quickly about the cyclists and sidewalks in the streets. I'll just say very quickly that if we had better infrastructure for bikes and cycling, then we wouldn't see them, on the sidewalks. And so, that's something that I've been pushing for. Certainly, I know Councilmember Restler as well. And we'll have to figure out, how to ensure greater pedestrian safety on the sidewalks, and making sure that folks are following the rules, because bicycles should not be on sidewalks. And to the last question, regarding the open streets, I can't get into the philosophy of, the Department of Transportation and how the open streets are, created and exactly where they're put. I believe that it's probably to create greater access to the parks, but I hear your point. Like I said, my office worked really hard to make sure that DOT came out in person to collect survey results, and we did some outreach ourselves, shared flyers to make sure people knew that they can come out. We communicated that, even with the community board and some others, to make sure that people knew that they can come out and participate in the survey. We also received a letter. I don't know if everyone is aware of this, but we received a letter from some stakeholders and neighbors in the community, representing about 800 people, it says, that's, expressing deep concerns with the open streets. And so that's a significant, number of people. And so we have to take that into consideration. It's a letter that was sent to many different offices, including mine and Department of Transportation. So we've made sure, and I've already had a conversation with Keith Bray, the Brooklyn Borough Commissioner at the Parks, at DOT, excuse me. So he is well aware of the letter. We will be making time to sit down and go through all of the points in the letter. So I do, want folks who are opposed to Willoughby Avenue to know that, your voices are being heard, and your perspective is being taken into consideration. And like I said, we will do our best to find, a happy medium and an open street that works for everyone. So I look forward to reporting back on that. And thank you so much for the opportunity, Mr. Singletary, and for the time. Thank you.
As always, Crystal, Councilmember Hudson, it's always good to have you a part of the meetings. And again, your team, they do a fine job representing you. And so we thank you for the time and for the time of your team. Have a great evening. All right, so we're going to go back to our agenda. Next committee for action is that of the Land Use Committee, and the chair of that committee is Mr. Carlton Gordon.
Thanks very much, Chair Lenny. First, I just want to follow up quickly on what Lincoln brought up regarding 50 Nevin Street. I've been informed that the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development are in the process, or should be in the process, of taking the affordable housing applications for 50, regarding 50 Nevin Street. So, let people know that they can maybe make applications, those who can qualify for that affordable housing. Okay, we have first, thanks. Well, first I should say thank you to our people on our committee, especially Karen Johnson, who did the minutes on this for the items that we have tonight. And also thanks to our co-chairs, Darshri Kostafin and Irene Jan. Okay, so we have a group of landmark preservation Commission certificates of appropriateness. And the first one is 1 Water Street, which is also known as the Ample Hills Creamery, which is in the Fulton Ferry Historic District. And the application mainly is to put up a sign, basically along the side. This is the old fireboat house, which is one of my favorite little structures, old structures in the area. And this will be a sign that will, which will some lighting, which will tell people essentially that this is the Apple Hill Creamery. So as people are walking along, they can say, "Oh, I will get something, a nice snack to, to have." It's going to be a nice signage on the side of the walls at the, I call it the fireboat house, and it's nicely done with signage not too large, a little bit of color on it, representing the colors of the Apple Hills Creamery. We liked it, and we voted for this one 702 in favor of the Apple Hills Creamery sign. Next one is 104 to 112 Bond Street, which is also known as Cafe Kitsune or Kitsune. It's a little trouble pronouncing that one. This is in the Borum Hill Historic District. Essentially, they want to do a good bit of work along the facades of this, for the cafe. And there will be work on the removing an old, let's say, retractable awning. There'll be work on, let's see, what else we have here? Yes, there'll be work on the doors. There'll be work on the replacing some of the, some of the fabrics that were there. There'll be some work on some of the brickwork that'll be, and glazing that will be done to try to bring it up to a nice level. And we did like this one. Now, Betty Feibush, who came to our meeting for this one especially, and she had some concerns about this one. She was especially didn't particularly trust the applicant, but she felt that they were trying to push through on having a, I will say, an outdoor cafe or outdoor seating at this one. But that really wasn't part of the application. There was some concern because of the way the architect drew, and they put a lot of little extras in the drawings. But essentially, the work that's going to be done will be to basically to upgrade it. It has nothing to do with with any outdoor seating. And we liked the work, and we voted for this one 900. The next one is 218 Carlton Avenue, no relation, and it's in the Fort Greene Historic District. And there's a good bit of work that's going to be done, mostly at the rear. Now, the Landmark Preservation Commission did want us to do it, even though it's in the rear. They're specifically concerned with, they wanted our opinion about the construction that would take place at the rear. There will be work at the rear, extensions for the second and third floor, and there will be work that would be done also at the along the rear facade to try to get it into a better condition. There'll also be some work along the roof, some of the roof connections, and we did ask, but we did receive information from the normal community groups in Fort Greene, the Fort Greene Association, the Clinton Hill Society for Clinton Hill, and the other one, which is, the Citizens for Responsible Change in Fort Greene and Clinton Hill. And they reviewed it. They couldn't come to any particular conclusion, so they said no comment. However, we liked the work that was being done to improve this particular area. And we liked it, and we approved this one 900. The next one is 40 Orange Street over in Brooklyn Heights. Now this, interestingly, is a this is the home or house or residence of Patrick Kalaki, who is, I think he still is currently on our board's transportation committee. And he's an old, of course, an old friend of the board. He was a former board member for quite a while. But Patrick Kalaki is basically asking at this point to put up, let's say, signage, like the old, if you see it in a number of older buildings, where the signage will just be a small sign indicating the name of the street. And it's something you've seen in a number of older buildings, and that's what he wants to do on this one. It'll be nice, flat, signage. It'll be along the side. It'll be put along, in a sort of, in a stone brick fashion along the side. He received support from the Brooklyn Heights Association. They liked the design. What Patrick Kalaki pointed out is that on the lettering, I guess so it'll be the type of lettering, or the typeface was the word actually. The typeface will be more of a modern look as opposed to trying to recreate something that is very old. But we like the work on it, and we like the idea of it as well. And we approved that one 900. And then and then last item that we have here is 40 Skimmerhorn Street, also in the Brooklyn Heights Historic District. On this one is a lot of work that they want to do along the back of the building of this particular 4-story residence. Now, it was a 2-family residence, and they were going to try to combine it into a 1-family residence. But the main thing they want to do is to build a extension. It's an 8-foot extension, but it'll be for all 4 stories, going from the ground up to the top. Or let's say the 4 stories, which was it's an unusual design. Normally we get these extensions and so for maybe a story or 2. This will be the idea is to build all the way from ground level up to the roof. And there was some concern about that from the Brooklyn Heights Association. In fact, as a result of it, we had the initial motion was to disapprove. However, that motion had failed 2-6-1. Again, we had further discussion on the matter, the work of the brickwork and, and doing work on the brownstone. And we felt that it was good enough, not fantastic, but good enough. And we voted in favor of the application 5-3-1. So we approved all the items that are before you, and we ask for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. If there are no objections, I'd like to break up the committee's report, action report this evening. I'll entertain a motion to accept the committee's recommendation, excluding for this motion 40 Skimmerhorn Street.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Harrison, second, Mr. Meyer. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I would like to also separate the Bond Street Cafe Consumi.
It was unanimous, Betty. Why would we do that?
I want to make a comment of concern and be able to vote against it.
So you have the opportunity now. This is for discussion.
Okay.
No, you have the opportunity now. You can discuss
Right
it.
now, okay. In addition to the matters that were discussed, and they do have the cafe outside all around, the lighting is not going to be appropriate to, it's a residential block, even though they said it's 40 feet from Atlantic Avenue or 40 yards. There was some mention on Pacific Street. It's all residential. It shouldn't have the notion of commercial and a sign that's illuminated because people live across the street and so on. And additionally, they have not been taking care of their trash. So I just want to say that it doesn't look like they're going to be a good neighbor. We have to watch them. That's what I'm going to say.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? Jessica, these are for Landmarks Preservation Commission. This doesn't require a roll call, does it?
No.
Right.
We're
Okay,
fine to
I
just take a
think
vote.
so. Again, the protocol, all in favor, please indicate by raising your hand or saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, right now for opposed, I just see Ms. Fibers. Is that correct? Okay. Any abstentions?
I'm gonna abstain.
I have Ms. Thurston is abstaining. Anyone else?
John Dew is abstaining.
I have Mr. Dew is abstaining. Anyone else? Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to accept the committee's recommendation for 40 Skimmerhorn Street.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Moved. Second.
Mr. Harrison, Mr. Jordan, thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, either indicate by raising your hand or saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Aye.
No. I see Ms. Fibers, I see Mr. Meyer. Am I missing anyone else for opposed? Any abstentions?
John Dew.
I see Mr. Dew, I see Daughtry. I see Mr. Flanoy. Any other community board members? Thank you. The motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have the chairperson's report. So there are a few things I want to, just a very few things. I'm going to keep this brief tonight. I do want to announce that, as with all things, there's some good things that sometimes must come to an end, in which case we are a body of individuals who volunteer. In many cases, what kicks off that volunteerism is a passion, a commitment, and an appointment. And so with that, I wanted to announce that I have received communication from Irene Janner that she is going to step down from the community board. I'm sure all of us, I don't know if there's anybody who's a member of community board too that hasn't had an opportunity to engage with Irene. She has been a long serving member of community board too. And she has clearly demonstrated her passion and quite frankly shared her insight and knowledge as it relates to Landmark's land use issues. And so as you all know, Irene is enjoying life in her new job, and it doesn't pay much, but she's grandma. And so now she loves being grandma, and she's spending a lot of time with her family. And so you can't ever argue against family. And so with that, I wanted to announce that she has communicated that she is resigning. Those of you who have an opportunity and you make some time, please reach out to Irene, thank her for her service, wish her well. And I'm hopeful that at some opportunity, we can in person schedule in one of our meetings, maybe after we get into maybe the next meeting, but definitely not the next meeting, maybe in September, we can get a chance to tell her thank you in person. I also wanted to announce that in the same vein, I have received a communication from Doreen Gallo, who has indicated that she is going to resign and step down from the community board. While I don't want to go into all of the things that she shared in her communication, you know, I just want people to understand that it is a commitment. And, you know, I make this joke, I may have said it before in the community board, but when I was in college, there was a class I had to take. It was a philosophy class. And in full transparency, most of the times I was in that class, I fell asleep. But the one day I was awake, I did hear a professor said, human beings make time for things they want to make time for. And I think that's applicable for all of us in the things that we do, and all of us who make the commitment to be on a community board. But there are times in life, things are presented to you and it makes life challenging. Life isn't easy. And so Doreen has decided that as she evaluates her life and the things that are happening right now, she mentioned two things. One, she felt it was the right time for her to step away, which I commend, because no one can manage your life better than you. But I also applaud her because she said she wanted to allow for a new blood and new people to come on community board too. And I commend her for that, because this is something that we want to continue to open up. These are not Supreme Court seats. And so we really want individuals to have the opportunity to serve in their community, serve in their own passionate way, but be counted on as being leaders, which we are, independent of what anyone else thinks or how we vote. We are leaders and we are passionate about what we do. So I want to take a moment to applaud Irene and Doreen for their decisions and for the service they provided to community board too. The next thing I wanted to mention is, as we get ready to go into the rest of the agenda, for the longest time, we have heard the chair of the Transportation and Public Safety Committee say with this almost like a melody, I don't have a co-chair. And John Quint serves as our secretary. Well, that is no longer the case. I have proud to say, I don't want to say twisted an arm, but I have been persistent in pursuing the appointment of Esther Blount to serve as the vice chair to the Transportation and Public Safety Committee. She has agreed to and says yes. So we now have a chair and co-chair for every committee. But what I'm really proud of, and I think this is something that we've always talked about, when you look at the makeup of the executive committee, I think it really indicates the diversity, the equity, the inclusion, but the investment throughout CB2 of how we have developed into the right members to serve in these roles. And I'm really proud, and I think we all should be proud that we have a community board that resembles and is wide enough to make sure that there's fair representation throughout the district. And so I commend every chair and co-chair and all of the elected officers of the community board too, that we're moving and we continue to move in that right direction. The last thing I wanted to mention is we are at that time where it is required and it is necessary for all committees to begin to have dialogue about the statement of district needs and the budget requests for fiscal year 24. As you heard Councilmember Hudson indicate that, you know, we're at that time where those requests are being required. So you should expect to see line items on your respective agendas where you need to set aside a discussion so that we are representing the larger districts that we serve and not just our immediate districts, and to do the best that we can to make sure those statements are combined and created in a way that fairly represents CB2. And so I just bring that to everyone's attention. You will see that on your respective agendas that are coming up. And as you always have, thank you in advance for the way you will give this the proper due diligence and discussion so that we have a fair representation. So with that, that concludes the chairperson's report for this evening. And then we'll move on to the next item, which is the elected officials and dignitaries, as is our custom, because I'm not able to see every single square on this Hollywood square. If you are representing an elected official or an office, please indicate your presence in the chat, and we will then call upon you once we've see that you've been here. And so with that, let me start with, I believe, hopefully he's still on, but I thought I saw Tony Herbert from the Mayor's Office of Community Assistance. And if he is still on, Tony, we'd love to hear from you. Okay, perhaps he stepped away for a minute. Andrew, I noticed I know Councilmember Hudson was on earlier. Are you representing some additional information or you're just staying on?
I'm just staying on to listen.
Okay, great, fantastic. Arvin, are you staying on? Or did you have something you wanted to mention as well? So maybe Arvin left. Okay, left. Allison, are you here representing Assemblywoman Joanne Simon?
Yes, I am here. Good evening, everyone. I'm Allison. I'm a community liaison in Assembly Member Joanne Simon's office. Thank you for having me this evening. There's so much going on right now. It's the end of session, so things are moving really fast. There's just a couple of weeks left. The Assembly member has been in Albany this week. So obviously, Assemblymember Simon is very, very concerned with the leak of the Supreme Court decision and the likely overturning of Roe v. Wade. She did vote to pass the Reproductive Health Act here in New York City, which codifies abortion into our state law. And she's also going to be pushing to support all the other legislative efforts happening right now to increase access to abortion in our state, and to also make sure that we have resources for people that will be coming into New York from other states where it's going to be restricted. And then we also are very excited that the Clark Street Station elevators are repaired. The Assembly member worked really hard with the MTA on this. And we also want to make sure everybody knows that they should support the local businesses in that station who were hit very hard when the station was closed. And tomorrow is a big day in our office. We are putting on the 7th annual Dyslexia Awareness Day event. The Assembly member is very passionate about elevating the issue of dyslexia and literacy. And so tomorrow we're going to have 3 different panels to discuss these issues. We're also going to have lots of legislators there talking about some legislation that's in the works. And we're also very excited to welcome Mayor Eric Adams and Chancellor David Banks to this event. We're very excited, and I'll drop the link in the chat. Everyone's welcome to join. It's on Zoom tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. And the last thing I want to say is our office has so many COVID tests. We have rapid tests, and we welcome all of you to stop by our office anytime, Monday through Friday, except for tomorrow during Dyslexia Awareness Day. But we have tons to give away. Tell your friends and neighbors, or you can come and we can give you a bunch that you could give to your friends and neighbors. So I'll put all that information in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. And give our best to Assemblywoman Simon. Thank you. Next, we have No Strangers to Community Board 2, and that is D.Wiley representing Congresswoman Velázquez. Dan, are you still here? All right, so moving right along, we're gonna go with Stacey Johnson, who's representing Senator Kavanagh.
Hello, thanks for having me again. Allison said a lot of the same things that I would say. It's busy in the office. A lot of things are happening minute by minute. A few things I'll mention that Allison didn't mention that's happened in the Assembly or in the Senate, in the legislature in the last couple of weeks. There was a big package of fire prevention bills that passed, and also a big package of environmental protections that passed. 15 environmental protection bills. Some of them include like extra charging stations in parking facilities, especially in like public land or in parking facilities that are publicly subsidized in some way. Incentives for more solar panels, and especially Senator Kavanagh's bill, there's a new carpet collection program to try to keep the carpets out of the landfill and to try to recycle those. And then from the fire prevention package, those were in response to the Bronx fire. So there's a whole bunch of bills there. Some of them are kind of boring and like just like little like increases in fines or like a little bit of enforcement here. There's one that makes sure that we test our fire hydrants more often, that there's like an actual frequency at which we test our fire hydrants. A standard for the adequate number of people to enforce each geographic area, so that there's enough staff to make sure that everything is enforced properly. So those are just some big packages that everybody was really excited about. And we also have a lot of COVID tests in our office. I do think they eventually expire. So please do not hesitate to just say, you know, we're having an event, or I think it'd be a good idea to take some here or there. I represent all of Brooklyn for the senator. So if you can think of anywhere that might need them, please reach out right away. I did put my cell phone and my email in the chat. That's it.
Thank you, Stacy. Next up, we have J.Watkins representing District Attorney Eric Gonzalez.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Yes, hi, John Watkins from Brooklyn DA Gonzalez office. As always, he sends his well wishes, and as always, he and his team of ADAs are out in community doing the people's work regarding the district attorney's office. Just a couple of things, a couple of events that are coming up. The first will be another gun buyback program or event that we'll be having. And that is going to be on Saturday, the May 21st at the Emmanuel Baptist Church. Starts at 1 o'clock and goes till about 4 o'clock. You can go on our website and get more information about that. But we do encourage people who may have firearms that might be in a closet or storage somewhere, and you're looking to lawfully dispose of them. So please consider the gun buyback event that we're having on Saturday, the 21st. The other item is this month is the Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Celebration month. And so our office is celebrating with an event that will be on Tuesday, May 24th at 5:30 at the Brooklyn Bar Association. You can RSVP on our website. So it's brooklyndA.org. And so we encourage the community to turn out for that, to celebrate another very vital part of our community. The DA is actively looking to engage with the community. He's been going to a number of public or community events throughout the borough, addressing public safety issues and crime matters. And so please know that he is very diligently going about protecting the citizens and residents of Brooklyn. That's all I have for right now. Everyone have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins. I do not see any other elected officials or representatives in the chat at this moment. Representatives from other agencies and community partners, please hold on. We'll get to you momentarily. With that, let me move on to committees to report. And before I do this, let me just check. I believe I'm correct. The Economic Development and Employment Committee and the Parks and Recreation Committee did not meet with any updates prior to tonight's meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct, Chair.
Okay,
That's
great.
correct, Mr. Chair.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer each of those chairs the opportunity to maybe provide an update, or feel free to not have a report, which is fine, and we'll just continue to move in the agenda. So with that, let me start with the first committee, Economic Development and Employment. The chair of that committee is Bill Flanoy.
Thank you, Chair Singletary. Denise Peterson is my co-chair and Kate Gilman is my secretary. I'm going to apologize, unfortunately, because of circumstances beyond both myself and my co-chair's ability. We were unable to actually chair that meeting. So because of that, we had to cancel.
Thank you, Bill. Next committee to report, next committee listed is Finance and Personnel.
What about Parks and Recreation?
I'm going down the list, Barbara.
Oh,
So
okay,
next is Finance
thanks.
and Personnel.
Okay.
Mr. Jordan, do you have a report this evening? Mr. Jordan?
Yes, Chair Secretary. Yes, I'm sorry. I bounced out of Zoom for a minute, so I'm just coming back. Yes, I have a brief report with Finance Personnel Committee met on April 20th.
Mr. Jordan, you're breaking up a bit.
23 budget came up with a total. Oh, okay. I might be my
No,
my
you're better
connection.
now.
Can you hear me now?
You're better now.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. We came up with a total of $19,900 for other than personal services. It's a total, but it's line item by line item. We have not received at least as of that meeting. We had not received any of our OMB allocations for budgets. And up until this time, I don't think we still have received it. So the committee agreed to wait. We're going to meet again on either May 24th or May 26th. We just had to finalize what date that would be. We're going to vote on a budget that we're going to present to the full board in June. And by that time, we may have gotten the allocation from OMB. If so, we can incorporate that into our into what we had planned. Otherwise, we will still, present it to the board for the board's approval in June at the June board meeting. And that's about it. Singletary. I'm open for any questions if anybody has any.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Next committee to report, the always eager and ready to give an update, the one and only Barbara Zala-Green.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, our last meeting we already reported on at the last general meeting. Our next meeting is this coming Monday, May 16th. We have a packed agenda. We're going to have an update on Governor's Island for 2022, where they've expanded access to the island. We'll have an update on Abolitionist Place from the New York City Economic Development Corporation, and then we'll have a report from Bike Polo on their efforts to find a permanent place for their sport and others similar. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Next committee to report, Transportation and Public Safety. That committee is chaired by Mr. Sid Meier.
Good evening, everyone. I'm really happy that I have a co-chair, and I welcome Esther to the. She's been on the committee, and I welcome her as co-chair. Someone already announced that the Clark Street station has reopened, but the Clinton Street exit to the Court Street station has closed, or is about to close, as they reconstruct that as well. We had a lively meeting mostly on open streets that we continue to discuss this. I'm happy to report that the Department of Transportation has announced that they will be submitting open street applications for the community board for comment, not approval, for comment. Our next meeting will include a report on the Willoughby Avenue survey that was done by the Department of Transportation. I'm sure that will be another lively meeting as well. The commissioner of the Department of Transportation is asking Albany for approval to make the speed cameras in school districts, which now only run from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday, to be operable 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And I'm sure that will be a subject for the discussion at the next Transportation Committee meeting as well. Our meeting's next Thursday. I welcome any questions, and I welcome anyone who would like to attend the meeting.
Thank you, Sid. Next committee to report, Youth Education and Cultural Affairs Committee. That committee is chaired by Betty Fibers.
Thank you, Chair Singletary, and my co-chair is Dorothea Manning Thompson. We did not have a meeting last month to report on, but I want to let people know that in the Department of Education, every single superintendent of every single district has to reapply for their job. And under the new management, administration, leadership, community and parent engagement is more important. The community had been kind of closed out of what happens in public schools. So it's my understanding that next week, every district will be having a town hall meeting on Zoom, and various candidates for the superintendency of that district will present and answer questions. So we'll get the information out to everyone. And I think it's really important to see who the potential leaders are of the districts that we are so engaged with, because there has to be a voice for community and all of our cultural partners, et cetera, in our public schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. So just before we move on to agenda item number 9, we called earlier for our dignitaries, and I see now that D.Wiley has rejoined the meeting. And so let me call on D.Wiley to give to represent our Representative Velázquez.
All right, great. So thanks for having me. Yeah, I was bouncing back between Community Board 6 and Community Board 2, which is easier in the virtual environment. So for Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez, over my shoulder this way is an education project by Brooklyn Bridge Park Conservancy at the Cove, ecology study by students seining and catching seahorses and stuff underneath the East River bridges. So I just wanted to mention that members of Congress had community project funding requests due at the end of April. We submitted 15 projects, and among those projects was the Youth Education Stewardship Initiative, which includes Brooklyn Bridge Park Conservancy, as well as New York City H2O and another part of the Congressman's district, which is the Ridgewood Reservoir. It also includes St. Anne's Warehouse for its cultural programming, and another group called the Greater Ridgewood Youth Council doing After School Olympics. So I wanted to highlight that, significant. We have more community project funding requests this year. Last year we got 10. This year we could request 15. So Congressman Velázquez is looking forward to securing this for fiscal year 2023. It also includes Fifth Avenue Committee's Barrio Solar, which is for $3 million to benefit low and moderate income residents to be able to get up to speed and afford to install solar. And that's helping with climate justice. Also with particular significance for Community Board 2, you know, that solar is throughout the borough. So it's all the neighborhoods and folks that are interested in that. St. Francis College has a nursing simulation lab. And so the Congresswoman is also requesting $1.5 million for that to expand, upgrade its program and expand access through Brooklyn Hospital Center and local high schools, training nurses to better serve New York. She also has projects, $3.5 million request for NYCHA ADA accessibility and security lighting package. And also in the district, Community Board 2, but throughout the boroughs in the city, she's requesting $1.8 million for the Immigrant Mental Health Initiative through the Arab American Family Support Center and the Academy of Medical and Public Health Services. Between those two organizations, they'll be able to expand services in Spanish, Chinese, Cantonese, Mandarin, Bengali, Arabic, Urdu, Hindi, Punjabi, and Dari. So this is a few highlighted projects among the 15 the Congresswoman has requested for the next fiscal year. And with that, I'll kick it back to you all. Dan, and I wanted to thank my family for, or I thank you guys for putting up with my family.
Well, Dan, I want to thank you for participating, but I'm also impressed at how you kept a steady face as if you didn't even know all that wonderful youth environment and noise was going on in the background. I love how you stayed focused. That's fantastic. That's definitely a skill set. You didn't blink not once. I love that. But give my best to the family. Thank you for participating. So now we'll move on to, there you go. There you go. Next on the agenda is our city agencies and community partners. And so again, if you're representing an agency or your community partner, just please indicate your presence in the chat and we'll call on you. The first person we're going to call on, if they're still on the agenda still in the chat, is Ken Lazar, representing the Department of Buildings.
Mr. Lazar, you're muted.
Hello? Can
Hello.
you hear me?
There you go. We
Okay.
can hear you now.
All right. First, I want to announce we have a new commissioner. He's former city councilman Eric Ulrich from Queens. He's been going around the agency, very receptive to the ideas and communicating with the staff. It looks like we have a winner here. Our former borough commissioner in Brooklyn, Kazimir Vilnicek, has been promoted to first deputy commissioner. And we got back our former deputy borough commissioner, Reda Shahada. He's now the Brooklyn borough commissioner. So we're very lucky. We have a good team. And I'm very happy with the team we have in Brooklyn. So things should be moving forward. No skips in service. Everything should be nice and smooth. And one other announcement. Up until May 31st, anybody in New York can call for a no penalty, no cost inspection for business signs, decks, and retaining walls. Anybody who feels that they want to have a business sign, a deck, or a retaining wall inspected without fear of a penalty or a violation can call 311, and a DOB inspector will come out and look at their business sign, their deck, or their retaining wall, and let them know whether it is up to code and safe. Again, all they need to do is call 311, and this has to be done prior to May 31st. This is an annual event, and it's been very successful in the past. No violations are given. And again, all you need to do is call 311 and request the no penalty inspection of business signs, a deck, or a retaining wall. That's it.
Thank you, Ken. Next up, we have Ethan Mulligan from the Brooklyn Navy Yard.
Thank you, Chair Singletary. I'm gonna, as I talk, just drop a few links in the chat, 3 links. So if anything I'm talking about interests you, feel free to go to those links. One will be for our permanent exhibits, one will be for programs, and one will be for our workforce development and employment center. On the first one, on the exhibits front, I have an exciting announcement that tomorrow, Building 92 will reopen to the public, which includes the permanent exhibition. So that's at 63 Flushing Avenue, that's Flushing and Carlton. You can come on down. The new hours will be Thursday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. So free and open to the public. There's a suggested donation if you'd like, but come on in, learn about, if you have anyone that really likes history, it's a great place to come to learn about the history of the Navy Yard. You can learn about some of the folks and the businesses that are here at the yard today. If you like ship models, there's great models of the Maine and the Missouri, which were both built at the yard. Some photos of the Arizona, which was built at the yard, the USS Arizona. So come on down to Building 92 and check out the permanent exhibition. The next thing I'd like to talk about is just some of our programs. I'm sure some of you know that it's New York City by Design Week is here. We will have workshops, we have classes, we have tours, we have tons of things. If you're really interested in design, come on down to the yard. We have some of the most innovative people in the city, and I'd even like to say the country. So come meet some of them, learn about them. And that'll be for that link. Yes, thank you, Taya. You'll have the New York City by Design programming. And then the second program I just wanted to mention is next Saturday and Sunday, not this weekend, May 21st and 22nd at Building 77 is our first ever spring market. So if anybody's ever been to our holiday market, you know we have over 30 vendors from the yard, all types of products being made, jewelry, fashion, one-of-a-kind home pieces, home decor pieces. There'll be food and drink options. There'll be music. So that's May 21st and 22nd from noon to 5. And that's at Building 77, which is at Flushing and Vanderbilt. So you could also catch Building 92 if you're down there. The vinyl wrap is still up on Flushing Avenue, so you could learn about the yard. You could take the ferry on the way out or the way in if you want, depending where you're coming from. So we hope to see you at Building 77 on May 21st and 22nd. And then the last thing I'm going to drop in the chat is just a link to our employment center, our workforce development. Still doing Tuesday information sessions in person, the morning one at 10 a.m. The 2 p.m. is virtual. You also see some updated hours on there for when folks can come in for appointments after they do that first information session. So that's the general one I talk about. And then I just have one more thing to talk about on the workforce front. We have a CNC training program that's going to start in late July. I didn't know what CNC was till I got to the yard, but that's computerized numerical control. And that's a way to do modern manufacturing. You have this machine that turns products. It's subtractive manufacturing. So it's taking pieces off of metal and plastic and turning them into parts and prototypes. And so for a lot of modern manufacturing businesses at the yard, they have these CNC machines and they need CNC programmers to work on them. So we have a beginner's course, which is actually full up, but we do have an intermediate course that's going to start on July 30th. And we're looking for 2 folks to fill the last slots. So it's free training. We need Brooklyn residents. We have a preference for NYCHA residents. And for the intermediate course, you don't need to be an expert, of course, you just need a few years of being around these CNC machines. So whether you were a STEAM scholar or you worked in a place where you kind of know how to turn it on and do the basics, we'd love to get you in the intermediate course. There are going to be beginner courses coming back around in the future. So if there's folks who want to start a career with CNC machining, that's part of our adult training program, which is part of the overall Workforce Development and Employment Center. So I'm going to put my email here last in the chat. If you do know anyone that could fill those slots, that program is going to start July 30th. It's going to run for 5 Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Again, free training. We just need people to commit to those 5 Saturdays and those hours. And I'll put my email in the chat, and please feel free to reach out and I'll put you in contact with the right person if you have someone who can take part in that program. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ethan. Next up, we're going to call on Richard Morrow from the Red Cross.
Let me see it. I get that. Yeah, I got it on. Hi. Good evening, Chairperson Singletary and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Richard Morrow. I'm the Greater New York Red Cross Community Relations Ambassador for Community Board 2. Around the country, there are presently 35 disaster relief operations. 33 are in the midsection and eastern region of our country. All are climate change related. This week locally, we assisted 225 adults and 71 children following 52 relief operations. The first week of May is National Hurricane Preparedness Week, sponsored by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the NOAA. They have published a series of themes that can help you prepare for the hurricane season, which begins in June. They cover your risk evaluation plans, disaster supplies, as well as your home insurance plan, the condition of your property, assisting neighbors, and a complete written plan. I'll attach the link for that into the chat right now. Let me see if I can do that. Now I'm getting used to this. Let's see, I got to do it. I think I just do that and I move it over. Now I'm not gonna, I'm going to send it to Taya. She'll put it in the community thing. All right. I wanted to mention something about job opportunities. I know it's not part of the Red Cross, but I thought it was important to get it out. There are job opportunities available in pursuing a career in the environmental field. The Super Stewards Program and the broader New York City's Park Stewardship Team will be hosting New York City service members, part of the AmeriCorps, starting this September for 9-month terms of service. Many people in our present program have begun their careers here in the New York City Parks Department by starting in this program. I'll really try to get this link in there. Please, if you know anybody who can And I don't know how to get this thing out of here. I'm sorry. All right. Last year, I mentioned a study being conducted by leading universities around the US about the lessons we learned from COVID-19 regarding our food supply chain. The results are in. We need to establish more regional production and distribution to ensure food availability. I have attached the results of this 2-year study in the chat, although I can't do it, but I'll send it and hopefully it'll be with the thing. As I mentioned at last month's meeting, the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, IPCC, published its 2022 report on the impacts, adaptation, and vulnerability of climate change globally. Presently, the Midwest and Western regions of the US are struggling through a severe drought, causing huge, uncontrollable fires. In the Mid and Eastern region, we have major flooding, tornadoes, and continuous earthquakes. This report is a valuable resource and one that is important to read and get out to our elected representatives. Again, I have attached it to the chat, but I'll send it to the office. Finally, our community board must fight to prevent the negative impacts of climate change, which depends entirely on our actions, which can turn the tides towards a just and sustainable future. As daunting as it may seem to you and me, I think the words of Alice Walker are important. She said, "The most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any." A reminder, Red Cross virtual programs can help you in our community. Our courses are free. Please check out our website, redcross.org, for details and to view our programs. We at the Red Cross salute you, fellow volunteers, for your continued work in making our community safe, affordable, and responsible to all our needs.
Thank you, Richard. Next up, we have our friends from the library system. So I'm not sure who's going to go first. How about I call on Tracy? And then Tracy, I'll let you coordinate which one of your colleagues and what order you go in.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We have a lot of programs going on at Brooklyn Public Library. To start off with, June 4th is the start of summer reading, and all the branches are going to be having summer reading programs. Clinton Hill is going to have a balloon artist, and we will also have t-shirt decorating. And you should just check the branch websites, and there'll be listings for programs and performers on that day. Clinton Hill is also going to have the James Fleet Quintet playing on May 26th at 4 o'clock. It's going to be outside of the branch, and we're really looking forward to having them. That's going to be the start of our summer concert series. So we'll be having other concerts coming in July and August and September. So once again, keep an eye on our branch page. Live story time restarts tomorrow, May 12th at 11 o'clock. And we will be having Thursday live story time for kids ages 1 to 5 outside, as long as the weather permits. We've also restarted Monday movie matinees, and we'll be having those twice a month, Mondays from 1 to 3. And the Adams Street and the Walt Whitman branches have teamed up with Brooklyn Bodega to do a 6-week program called the Big Question Literacy Project. And you can call those branches for more details or also check their websites. And now I'm going to turn it over to Rachel.
Hi, thank you so much, Tracy. Thank you all for letting us speak as always. My name is Rachel Tiemann, and I'm the managing librarian for the Brooklyn Heights Library. And as I said at the last meeting, we're opening in June. We're opening on June 8th. We have a date, and we could not be more excited. I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone who's on this Zoom meeting come through our doors at some point. Ask for Rachel. I'll give you a tour. I will make sure you have a library card if you don't already, and you should. And I'll even let you take out a free book. It's going to be great. So June 8th, we will be opening for real. We couldn't be more thrilled. We've got several outreach events happening in tandem with this. We're going to be having musical performance in Cadman Plaza, June 1st and June 15th. We're still confirming that, but the Borough Hall has been working really well and closely with us in helping us to do this. We're going to be tabling, and the bookmobile hopefully will be parked on Pierpont Street so everyone can stop by the bookmobile. So there'll be fun music on June 1st and June 15th. Those are Wednesdays from 12 to 2. So come spend your lunch with us at the Brooklyn Public Library outside. We're also really excited to announce that the very popular Brooklyn Bridge Story Time will be starting on June 15th. We'll be doing that 10:30 on 6 Wednesdays in a row, beginning on the 15th at Pier 2 Greenway Terrace. No tickets required, and it's going to be quite fun. We're really looking forward to that. We've done that for several years now. And then I'm going to end with BPL Outdoors, which is another outreach event. That is going to be at Fort Greene Park near the Walt Whitman Library. Hopefully it will be this Saturday, May 14th from 10 to 1, but the rain date is May 21st from 10 to 1. We're going to have a green story time. We're going to have flower pot decorating. My kid just gave me a thumbs up. I guess I'm doing well. And we'll have all kinds of fun things. So join us. If not on the 14th, we'll be announcing if it's a rain date on the 21st. Again, Brooklyn Heights Library is opening on June 8th, and we are very thrilled. Thank you so much, everyone. And that is it for Brooklyn Public Library.
Thank you to our friends at the library. We always appreciate you participating. By my account, I think that's all we have for our city agencies and community partners. So now we're going to move on to our open session. The open session, oh, I'm sorry, before I do that, is there any other board business? Any board members have any other business they'd like to announce or share at this time? Okay, great. Now we'll move on to community forum. And I see we have a community forum, new business, but I'm gonna separate this out for a minute. We're gonna go straight into community forum. And this is where non-community board members would have an opportunity to speak and share information. So first we're gonna call on, I just remind everyone that during this session, you have 2 minutes to provide some information and speak. And at the conclusion of the 2 minutes, we will just turn off the mic. So thank you. We'll start with Raul. Raul, you're on mute.
Yep, I got it. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Lenny, for recognizing me. Thank you for CB2 for your patience tonight. I just want to say that Friends of Abolitionist Place continues to build organizationally. We have our nonprofit status. We've been working with the city to make sure that the property itself is safe. It's bolstered up on the north side, but still needs help on the west side. And we've raised with the city the fact that the windows are still open at 227 Duffield, so we're on top of that. But mostly, I just want to really say thank you to everyone who showed up at our abolitionist speak out.
Picture in a minute.
Our speak out was really not only an emotional event, it was also really, we had some family members of the local suffragists. We also had a lot of really exciting, groundbreaking, scholarly information that was really connected to Brooklyn history. So I have a link I'm going to share. It's a 100-minute long video, but it's actually, it's my idea of fun to watch something like this. There was also some news in Brownstoner about our activities. I'm sharing that. Thank you, Taya, for sharing the link about the about our website, and probably there's some other folks who are interested in maps. I've been working on trying to articulate this and connect it to current life, and one way I've done it is with this map over here. So we have some great resources. The Brooklyn Historic did the In Pursuit of Freedom, which is an awesome exhibit, but there's others too, and so I've included that on this map, and I would love to hear from people. I'm including my email, and we really want to involve everyone in the future of, believe that our Brooklyn's abolitionist and suffragist history is worth celebrating in a very concrete way, and we look forward to partnering with you all to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a representative from Perch Advisors.
Hello, everyone. I'm Aarti Mehta. I'm project manager at Perch Advisors, and we are recently collaborating with Dollarite. Dollarite is a tech-owned Brooklyn-based company whose mission is to deliver community-aligned clean transportation solutions. My purpose of being here is to share information, and also I'm requesting feedback on a project that Dollarite is on. Recently, they have been named as a finalist for the New York State Energy Research Development Authority's Clean Neighborhood Challenge. And if they get the award, the funding, the grants will be used, will enable Dollarite to electrify the dollar vans in parts of the outer boroughs that lack access to public transit. This includes the routes along the Flatbush and Utica Avenue. Dollarite team is working to produce final proposals, and we would like to hear directly from the community members in order to better understand how an electrified fleet of dollar vans can best serve the neighborhoods along Flatbush and Utica Avenue. So as part of the final stage of this grant proposal, we are inviting community members in neighborhoods along Flatbush Ave to dig in a little more deeper with us on dollar vans and share their feedback that can inform the direction of this project. So whether or not you are currently using dollar vans, we have created a survey for gathering community feedback on dollar vans. And I would like to share the survey link in the chat. I request everyone to probably take the survey and give their feedback. Sorry. Yep. And also, if you'd like, we are also hosting 2 town hall events, which is going to be on May 16th, the virtual one, and May 19th, it's going to be an in-person at Brooklyn Commons. For more information and to register at these 2 events, I'm just sharing the links on the chat again, so that you guys can register and be part of this project. Yeah, that's it.
So thank you for this information. I would advise that you work with our district office, and
Sure.
that at a time that's convenient in relationship to the agenda, that you present and be able to give a little bit more depth without being rushed at our transportation committee.
Sure, sure.
Okay.
I think it's in this month, right?
Well, we meet every month. Yeah, you're already on the
Yeah.
agenda?
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other community individuals or representatives that like to make a comment at this time? All right, seeing none, do we have any new business? Mr. Harrison?
Thanks to Chair. Just a few on that. It's not as much business, it's just a thank you to everybody for this meeting. Was for me, sad information that Doreen and I are exiting, but that's part of life. I think it's great that Esther stepped into the role she is. I'm excited that Betty shared what appears to be the candidacy for community superintendents, because we're all, you and I are certainly old enough, Lenny, to remember a time when community superintendents were anything of an open forum, who got selected, who pushed. I'm also excited because, again, I don't mean to be aging you, sir, but I'm excited in the report from Congressman Nydia Velázquez catching seahorses under the bridge. In the 1970s, this is not a to catch anything that one want to save that was under the bridge. I also want to thank our friend from the Red Cross. I think it's exciting and wonderful that there's this program that's going to help train people, if I understand what our colleagues said, train people in environmental skills, as well as what Tracy said, in train people in literacy. Lastly, I want to thank you for letting me say this, but also I want to thank you for leadership, because I think the board continues only to be the cornucopia representative of the community that you say, but the meetings are well-run, concise, and informative, and for that, I think it's valuable. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other new business from board members? Okay, great. So Next item on the agenda, Mr. Gordon.
Say, Lenny, again, thank you. Just to say, go on the record to say thank you for Irene Janice. She was our co-chair. And I think I thank her for all the work she's done, especially for the Landmark Land Use Committee. And she brought a lot of valuable service. And I just want to go on the record and say, thanks, Irene.
Absolutely. Here. Like I said, hopefully we'll find a way to where we all can celebrate her. You know, it's a little bit awkward because we're in this virtual environment. Generally, we would be in a pre-COVID world in person, and we would, you know, have a chance to hug it out. But hopefully we'll have a chance to hug it out later. So again, we're going to find a way to really appreciate Irene, and not just Irene, and, you know, other members have put a lot of service and time too. So we're going to find a way to say thank you. We're going to do a thank you CB2 day. We'll figure it out, but we'll get something done.
Thanks. Will do.
So unless there are any other shout outs or thank yous, and let me just do a general thank you so we don't need any more thank yous. Is there anything else before I go to adjourn? Good night, everyone. Get home safe. Don't trip over the couch to get to the kitchen. All right. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Take care.